ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. We'll continue our journey of Prashna Upanishad, third question and third adhyaya also. So third Prashna, verse is अथ हैनं कौशल्यश्चाश्वलायनः प्रपच्छ भगवन् कुत एष प्राणो जायते कथमायात् सस्मिन् शरीर आत्मानं वा प्रविभज्य कथं प्रतिष्ठते केनोत्क्रमते कथं बाह्यमभिधते कथमध्यात्ममिति. So Kaushalya, Ashwalayana. Ashwalayana's putra is, or son is, Ashwalayana. His name is Kaushalya. Kaushalya, Ashwalayana asked Rishi Piplada, Lord, from what does this life breath arise? How does it enter this body? How does it divide itself and settle down? By what path does it set off? How is it designated outside the body? And how within the body? So this is about prana, life breath. When we breathe in, what happens afterwards? How it is divided into pancha prana, 5 pranas. And when Atma leaves the body, it is said prana also leaves. So how that happens? So these are the basic questions. Second verse, तस्मै स हो उवाचा ते पश्चान् पृच्छसि ब्रह्मिष्ठो असि तस्मात् ते अहं ब्रवीमि. So Rishi Piplada told Kaushalya, you ask too many questions, but since you are a very eminent Brahman, I will answer you. Actually, they were supposed to ask one question each, but Kaushalya asked multiple questions that are related to just one question: what is prana, what is life breath? And that's why Rishi Piplada is kind of praising him, that using one question you ask multiple questions because you wanted to know more. Third verse, Atmana esha prano jayate yathesha purushe chhayai tasmin neta datatam manokrute nayatya smin sharire. The life breath here arises from the self, which is Atma. How? As this shadow here upon a man, so this mind is stretched upon life breath, and it enters by a path created by the mind. So here the upma, the simile is taken as when we are standing in light, we have our shadow, our chhaya. So how that shadow is created out of a person or a being. Similarly, mind, it is ultimately the mind that is stretched upon life breath or prana. Mind creates the pathway for the prana. So prana, if you look at physiology of the body, mind ultimately resides within brain. Brain is physical entity, and that physical entity has created multiple pathways using nervous system, circulatory systems, and I call it the pathway for flowing the blood and other fluids. So there are various channels or entities that are created or controlled via mind. Similarly, the pathway for all the air that is circulating within the body, that is also created by mind. So life breath, prana, flows through those channels, through those pathways that are created by our mind. fourth verse. यथा सम्रा देवाधिकृतान् विनियुङ्क्ते एतन् ग्रामानोतान् ग्रामानधितिष्ठ स्वेत्येव मे वैश प्राण इतरान् प्राणान् पृथक् पृथगेव सन्निधत्ते. So meaning of that is, as only a sovereign king appoints administrators, telling them, you govern these villages and you govern these other villages, in just the same way the life breath here assigns the other breaths to their respective places. So as we said, the prana that enters the body created by the channels created by mind, and ultimately it is divided into 5 different pranas. We call it pancha prana. So this is the basic process, and here the upama taken is, there is one king is mind, and king appoints in every village other governors. So similarly, life breath, that is like a king, and that is divided into 5 different entities, and they govern various other faculties within the body. Fifth verse. पायुपस्थे अपानं चक्षुश्रोत्रे मुखनासिकाभ्यां प्राणः स्वयं प्रातिष्ठते मध्ये तु समानः एष येतद् तमन्नं समं नयति तस्मादेतः सप्तार्चीषो भवन्ति. The in-breath settles in the anus and the sexual organ, while the life breath itself settles in sight and hearing through the mouth and nostrils. The link breath, on the other hand, settles in the mid region, for it makes the food that has been offered alike, and from it arise these 7 flames here. So these are the names given when life breath, prana, comes in. The breath or the controlling air faculty that goes downward in the lower parts, that is apana, and here the English, it's a nice word, it's in breath, so apana goes downward, and in the mid region whatever stays, which is our digestive property, because our food when we take in, it also requires, it's like combustible engine, it requires air to process whatever is taken in. So that life breath or that division of life breath is called samana vayu, because it, whatever we take in, whatever material is going in, ultimately it is becoming in various basic elements, and it is torn apart into those basic elements, and ultimately it's the blood that carries everything. So it's like making it sama, it creates a equilibrium of whatever is taken in. The best example is milk. So whatever milk we take in, it's ultimately coming from any type of food that is ingested. Now milk has just one property, meaning it has multiple properties, but if you think of milk, it is white, it is neutral in all the ingredients, it is balanced ingredients, so everything is churned and this milk is created out of that. So it's like dohan. So that dohana, even if we say that it is the ultimately the milk that is in the upper part of intestine, that is converted into various nourishment or nutrients. So that samana, that process is samana vayu, and from it arise these 7 flames here. Now this is, I am kind of confused about this 7 flames. In the digestive system, is Rishi mentioning that it is divided into some 7 different types of energies, or it is they are sitting near a havan, a homam, and they are visualizing that there are 7 types of flames, because this word is used at multiple places in multiple different contexts. It could be the 7 colors or 7 different divisions of a sunlight. It could be that, or it could be 7 chakras within body, because they all operate, they are considered energy centers. So these are 7 different energy centers. Are they the 7 flames? I am not sure about that, but ultimately they get nourishment, whatever it is, or they are kind of created from this samana vayu. Next verse. It could be there are 7 organs of perception. When we say 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, mouth, or maybe our skin. So this could be 7 different flames, because that's how we kind of interact with the outside world, and also that are kind of gateways to the internal world also. So maybe these are the 7 flames, not sure. If we take the context, all these faculties, if we don't eat good food, if we don't have good nourishment, then we lose eyesight, we lose ability to smell, we lose ability to hear properly, we lose definitely ability to speak. If somebody is starving, then cannot speak well. So it most probably it is these 7 organs or perception that we have in our face, that could be 7 flames. 6th verse. हृदि ह्येष आत्मा अत्रैतदेकशतं नाडीनं तासां शतं शतमेकैकस्य द्वासप्ततिर्द्वासप्ततिः प्रतिशाखानाडी सहस्राणि भवन्त्यासु व्यानश्चरति. The self or Atma resides within the heart. There are 101 veins here in the body. Each of them branch into 100 more, and each of these branches into 72,000 more. Along these veins travels the link breath. Now, these numbers, they may not be accurate, because we are talking about the time at least 5,000 years back. Most probably it's 7,000 year old. This is the time frame we are talking about. So they may not have accurate account of how many veins we have in the body, but they say that the major are 101, and from those 101 it is divided into 100 more, and those 100 more are divided into 72,000. So how they came up with this number, we don't have any answer, but they have these numbers. Now if we look at throughout our body, the nervous system or circulatory system, there are multiple. For them, I would say vein is not just the arteries and veins that carry blood, but even nervous system, because they carry certain signals from brain. So these are also the channels or nadis. So it's a general term, I would say, and that's why 101 divided into 100, 100 further divided into 72,000. So that could be a number they came up with. And this is Vyana. Vyana is distributing everything throughout the body. So why Vyana? The very beautiful English word. It's a link breath which connects everything, because ultimately those are the faculties that connect everything, each and every part of our body, and that system is controlled via Vyana, the link breath. 7th verse. अथैकयोर्ध्व उदानः पुण्येन पुण्यं लोकं नयति पापेन पापमुभाभ्यामेव मनुष्यलोकम्. And then the one called Udana. Udana is upward, which gives buoyancy to our body, directs the virtuous to the virtuous world, and the sinful to the sinful world, and those with both characteristics to the world of man. So, again, many other metaphors used here. Udana, it's a very interesting breath or prana. English word up breath is also used here. So, up breath, udana or udana. We all might have experienced that if a person is alive and we try to carry that body, it feels lighter compared to when somebody passes away. The same body without prana, that body feels heavy. So, same person, same kilogram, if we put in the weight scale, it's the same kilogram or same pound. But alive versus dead, the body that is alive, a person that is within that body feels lighter than the same body without prana or life. So, that is attributed to udana, is what I heard at many different places, that udana ultimately gives buoyancy. Even if we don't feel it, the biggest force we feel is gravity. We go downward, we feel going downward. But still, this udana gives us upward movement, that buoyancy. We are kind of up to some degree floating. So, that buoyancy is attributed to udana. Now, udana that controls our next birth is what Rishi is saying here. So, if somebody is virtuous, has guna, goes to the world of virtuous or goes to the world of rishis. We have multiple lokas, tapa loka, jana loka, swarg loka. So, these are all virtuous lokas, even pitru loka. And then we have naraka, various types of naraka lokas. So, these are various lokas that are governed by udana, is what Rishi is saying. So, when somebody leaves body, how udana takes that atma from heart, in which channel? We have actually three different channels, ida, pingala and sushumna in the middle. So, ida is chandra nadi. So, if the atma flows upward via udana, the person is going to come back. It's a world of sin, or we can call it naraka. It does not mean that person is put into some place where he or she is being burnt or tortured, or it's not like that, because atma does not feel anything, but it's the mind that covers that atma, that feels it. So, when we leave body, we might be feeling, we might be having that kind of experience. We don't have any proof, or we don't have any first-hand experience, right? If somebody leaves the body, we don't know what is happening with that person. But our yogis, when they experience all this, they tell us that if somebody lives through ida nadi, chandra nadi, then that feeling, see, we are talking about beyond time and space. So, for us, there might be 1 second, but that person might have felt thousands of years in that 1 second, because it's beyond time and space. So, he might have or she might have felt very tormented experience, might have very tormented experience going through that nadi because of multiple reasons we are not aware of. If somebody lives through surya nadi, pingala nadi, then that experience is pleasant, and that could be equivalent to having in a good loka, because atma does not go or does not come in, it just stays. Only its center changes, the center moves. Atma is still the same and still at the same place. So that center is moving, is what I envision. That means that person is going to come back in a different life, but through pleasant experience, because mind is still there. And when that Atma, that center of that infinite circle, moves through Sushumna, that experience is out of the world, that Atma is dissolved. It's not taking place in a new birth, it is not going through that process. So these are three different experiences, we can say. Eighth verse. आदित्यो ह वै बाह्यः प्राण उदयत्येष येनं चाक्षुषं प्राणमनुगृह्णानः पृथिव्यां या देवता सैषा पुरुषस्य अपानमवष्टभ्यान्तरात् यदाकाशः स समानो वायुर्व्यानः. Now, the sun rises as the external life breath, for this conforms to the life breath residing within sight. The deity in the earth, that deity is there on account of the in-breath of a person. The space that is in between is the link breath, and the wind is the inter-breath. So, yatha pinde tatha brahmande. So, life breath, prana, Surya is prana. And as Rishi earlier said, prana stays in sight and the upper part. And our sight, eyes, are attributed to sun. If there is no sun, there is no use of sight. Even though eyes might be there as a physical organ, but it might not have sight. And we have many such creatures, right, in deep ocean. They have eye-like organ, but they don't see anything. So they are kind of blind fish, we call it. So they, when we have eyes, but that eyes have sight because of sun, and sun is prana, life breath. So next is apana. Now apana, earth is apana, the in breath. And if we look at our body, the lowest chakra, that is Muladhara, is governed by Ganapati, and Ganapati is attributed to earth, quality of earth. So apana, Mother Earth, and Ganapati, they are also related, and Muladhara chakra. The next one is Samana. Now Samana is called the link breath, which is space. So between earth and sun, whatever is between that space, that is controlled via Samana. And we know sky is kind of that element, the space is the element that is the ultimate element from which all the rest of the elements have sprung. Or we can say that starting from earth, all the elements, when they are burnt, they kind of dissolve into ultimately space. So space is equilibrium for the rest of the elements. In Atharva Shira Upanishad, if I remember correctly, it is said that bhasma, they use this word bhasma. So when earth is burnt, its bhasma is jala. When jala is burnt, its bhasma is agni. When agni is burnt, its bhasma is vayu, air. When air is burnt, its bhasma is space. Similarly, if space is burnt, whatever remains is air. If air is burnt, whatever remains is jala. When jala, water, it is burnt, whatever remains is earth. So both ways. Bhasma here does not mean ash in our general term. Bhasma is when something is burned, when something is ignited, or when something is applied energy, or when something comes in contact with energy, whatever remains afterward, shesha, that is bhasma. But ultimately it's the space that is samana for everything, because it has everything, and its concentrated representation is ultimately the earth, which is the most dense or most concentrated space, we can say. And Vyana is air, which is interbreath. So between space, let's look at again. Sun is prana, earth is apana, space between is samana, udana. Now udana, where is it? I think it comes in the next verse. So space is in between, which is samana, and air is vyana, which the air reaches everywhere and nourishes everything. In the 9th verse, udana is mentioned. Tejo hava udanastasma dupashanta tejaha punarbhavam indriyair manasi sampatya manaihi. So tej, we can say tej meaning light or fire, that is udana, which is up breath. Therefore the one's fire is extinguished are destined for rebirth with their senses absorbed in the mind. Now this is, we can say, process of rebirth. We earlier saw that udana controls how we take our birth, and again it is reiterated here. So when that fire udana is extinguished, we go through the process of rebirth, and the rebirth process is, first the senses are absorbed in mind, and that mind is carried forward. Where it is stored, how it is stored, we don't know. And my personal experience that when somebody leaves the body, meaning the atma no longer occupies that body, atma is pure, it does not have any joys and sorrows or any senses or anything, but it's when physical body no longer is worthy of sustaining life, there is a next body, which is manomaya kosha, the mental mind body. Now mind, we usually say that it resides in brain, but it could be anything, it could be anywhere. How it is stored or where does it get stored, the science does not know exactly, but ultimately let's assume that it is beyond our 4 dimensions, it is stored somewhere, it is still here, but we cannot feel or experience. So that mind remains, mind has senses. Now when that atma occupies next body, mind comes back, and mind has all the storage of past karmas or past births, and ultimately that governs the next birth. So we do agni sanskar or antim kriya of our physical body. For many of us, we do not believe in all this Bharavi, Tervi Kriya and all that we do after somebody passes away. We do not believe in Shraddha Karma, but there are many experiences, multiple people, multiple faiths. Even somebody does not believe in Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma, still would do Shraddha Kriya, and there were experiences. The biggest experience from Western world is Sylvester Stallone. He is a Bollywood actor. When his son passed away, this is I think 15-16 years back, when his son passed away, they cremated, not cremated, they did the Christian process, burying into so after that he and his family, they felt presence of that passed away son in their house multiple times. So after 1 year or couple of years, they thought, why is it happening? So they sought answers. Somebody from Sanatan Dharma, they might have come into contact. They said, perform Shraddha Kriya. So the whole family went to Kashi. They performed Shraddha Kriya. And after that, they did not have that experience in their home. So their body is dead. There is no Atma occupying that body. Atma might have taken a different birth, but that mind, even though it goes along with that Atma, some entity remains. It is not fully dissolved. It's like in this room, somebody sprays perfume or there is fragrance. We open the door and some fragrance goes out, or somebody tries to push air in a different area, still some part of fragrance will remain. Similarly, mind goes along the path of Atma into a new body, but something remained, and something, if we perform those kriyas, somehow it affects that and it makes sure that everything is dissolved, and it does not affect the person who is already in a different body, because it is also observed at multiple places that person has taken a new birth with some ailment, and all of a sudden out of thin air it got cured because somebody might have performed that Shraddha Kriya. So now that person is cured. Cured meaning whatever ailment that person might have, it got reduced or removed. Or sometimes we say that some children are born with extreme nightmares. They have those, we don't know, for some reason, body, even though it is very healthy, that child might be tormented a lot, because it is quite possible that somebody might not have performed the full ritual. Some part remained in the past life in the present time. So that child's past life is still kind of affecting the new birth, because something remained there. So if they do that, the Shraddha Kriya and Tarpana Kriya, then it affects the new path also. Now these are again belief systems, right? We believe it or not. We cannot prove everything, but it's up to us whether we want to follow those things. And Puranas, they stress on these processes very much. Even we might have seen that in our olden times we rigidly followed all this, but then everything gets distorted. Tarpana Kriya is very simple, but we want to show off, so we created multiple things out of it. And today the things we follow, it's just for show off for society. We do not follow the perfect Tarpana Vidhi. So we have to be a little careful there. What we want to believe and what we want to perform.
This is to remove what was remaining.
Yes, the mental body, because we do not cremate or we do not bury that mental thing, right? That mental body, Manomaya Kosha. So it still remains.
This is different than the karma baggage that is carried over from life to life. This is different than that.
It is related to karma, because ultimately mind is the storage, right? Manas has storage of everything. When we talk about somebody going through past life regression, somebody just gets that in a moment. So all that is coming into manas. So it is stored as part of that Manomaya Kosha, which is beyond our dimension.
But that we cannot do much with this kriyas. The kriyas is to remove what was remaining attached to the last life.
Whatever fragrant still remained in or for that body, we try to remove that so that the Atma completely detaches from the past life. It begins everything new. But there is no lingering thing from the past life. But when we call prarabdha karma and sanchita karma, they are still carried until somebody grows up to the stature of removing all those bondages. Until then, the mind, that manomaya kosha, is carried forward. All the senses are also carried forward. All the past lives, that karmas, are carried forward. But whatever remained in the past life, we want to detach completely so that we focus on the new life 100%. Let's say there is a flow of river which is maligned because of some factory thought of having those chemicals in the river. Now we try to clean that water body. Still some traces will remain. So until and unless we do rigorous process, those things will remain. But if we completely clean it 100%, then there is no iota of that chemical in that particular area. It is just flushed away, washed away to a new channel, new area. So something like that. Mm, 10th verse. यच्चित्तस्तेनेश प्राण मायाति प्राणस्तेजसा युक्तः सहात्मना तथा संकल्पितं लोकं नयति. So this is one merges with universal prana with one's last state of mind, and prana harnessed with teja together with atman directs one to the desired world. Again, this is the process of how Atma leaves this body, gets the new body, the process of rebirth. That Udana Vayu, which is the up breath, it merges with universal prana. Ultimately, everything, there is just one prana. We call it universal prana. Or Vaishvik prana. So we are part of that. It's like there is big ocean of water. Now in that ocean body, which is like Vaishvika prana, universal prana, and there are vessels of clay put within that ocean. So every vessel is a different being. When that vessel is broken, the prana merges with the ocean. Similarly, our individual prana merges with universal prana, and it is said that with one's last state of mind. We have heard stories of Jad Bharat, right? How Jad Bharat, even though he was a very learned, very profound Rishi who was almost free from all the bondages, even then his mind was attached to a deer, and because of that he had to come back. Even though he was liberated person, because of that attachment he had to come back, because that's how he left body. So when we leave body, the last state of mind, that decides our next life, or that kind of directs to the desired world via that light. Even in Christian beliefs, we see that somebody might have felt NDE, near death experiences. They talk about a big tunnel having light and some being guiding them. and we call it is Yamduta or Vishnu Duta taking us through Vaitarani, the river, and taking us to a place of light. So we all have kind of similar stories. So that Udana Vayu, Udana Vayu has property of light. So that takes us out of that center of our Atma. When it is taken out of this body, that's how we feel that. That's how we experience that. That we are going through a tunnel. That tunnel is nothing but Ida Pingala or Sushumna. And we feel it is light, bright light, because it is governed by light, that Udana Vayu, the up breath. So for that moment, we might be feeling, we say that, right? That in a flash, we see our whole life, all the events in our life, right from our birth to almost death, we see that in a flash. That means that moment is beyond our time. We cannot scale or measure in our time. We might say that, oh, that person took 10 seconds or took 15 minutes to pass away. But for them, it could be the whole life, 100 years or 1000 years. Somebody might be getting into past lives, we don't know. So that is all controlled via this Udana. And that's last state of mind. Because if we are not liberated, if we are fixated on certain things when we pass away, because we are watching our life as a movie, so which event we are fixated upon in that time, we carry forward that, because that is the most profound experience we had in this life. So our next life must be to work on that karma. There are multiple sins, so out of them we picked one. So if we pick one, that means we want to give importance to that particular karma and finish that in next birth. The others will remain, will come back eventually, because we say that 84 lakh uni, 84, 8.4 million unis or 8.4 million different births, and then we get human life. That means we need to pass through multiple births. Even in human body, we go through multiple stages. Some are at very lower, I wouldn't say lower, but they don't know what they are given. They feel like they live animal life. Then on the other hand, there are very pious people, they are very virtuous, very sattvic. So we have two extremes, and in that extreme, this band, we live somewhere. So ultimately we progress. Now it is that's why it is important to use kriya yoga, because Krishna says you have bhakti, so you will always think about me, but when time comes, you will forget me. Let's say, even though we devote our life to Bhagavan Shri Krishna, somebody slaps us, what happens within us? We might get angry, we forget about Krishna, it becomes our body, we become I, and that I takes over. That means we are going to incur new karmas, and we are going to be bound by that, and that is going to affect our next life. But if we do kriya, that means Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga is a tool to compress all the karmas or burn. Let's say there is a big log of wood, one karma, and we apply kriya, Ashtanga Yoga sadhana, so it will burn it. What remains is ash. So our karma is dissolved and became very small. So in next life, if we are to remove that karma, or we are to work on that karma, compared to a big log, it is now just few grams of ash. So it's very easy to get rid of it. And that's why it's very important to do all four: Gnan, Karma, Kriya and Bhakti. Now all are linked, all are related, and it is said at multiple places throughout Bhagavad Gita, and we must follow that. Even Ashtanga Yoga, it has Ishvara Pranidhana as part of it. So Ishvara Pranidhana is bhakti. So we must follow that. And Gnana does not mean know how quantum works, or how car works, or how computer works. Gnan is what we do to know Brahma, what we do to know Atma, that is Gnan. And karma is also attributed to Atma, because whatever we do, we ultimately say that it is by Paramatma, or whatever we do, the result of that is for Paramatma, or attributed to, or given to Paramatma. And bhakti is total surrender, there is no second thing. And kriya is Ashtanga Yoga. Ultimately, samadhi is what? We want to be with the universal prana, we want to be with Paramatma, we want to be with Parabrahma. So that is the ultimate goal. So all are interlinked, I would say. 11th verse. Ya evam vidvan pranam vedana hasya praja hiyate amruto bhavati tadeshah shlokah. When a man knows this and thus understands the life breath, his line of progeny will not be cut off, and he will become immortal. On these, there is this verse. Now, this is something we usually don't value in our modern life with modern studies and science. But Rishi here saying that somebody who knows the process of prana, his or her progeny, that means his or her vansha, will never be cut off. They will continue having their torch carried forward, generation upon generation. And that's the meaning of Amruta. We say Amruta meaning living millions of years. No. But even Mahamrutyunjay mantra says, Om Trembakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukam Iva. Now, why Urvarukam Iva? Because that cucumber, when it fell off from the tree, or vine, it has hundreds of seeds. Those hundreds of seeds will create new vines, hundreds of new vines, and they'll carry forward that generation after generation. So just like that, somebody who knows, or who has jnana of prana, how it operates, meaning this Prashna Upanishad, his or her vansh will continue forever. Again, this is belief system, whether we believe it or not, but this is blessing from Rishi Pipalada. So let's take it as yes, it is possible. In the next verse, 12. Utpatti mayatim sthanam vibhutvam chaiva panchadha adhyatmam chaiva pranasya vijnaya mruta mashnute vijnaya mruta mashnuta iti. The origin, entrance, position, the five-fold expansion of life breath, how it relates to what's in the body, a man who knows this becomes immortal. So knowing third Prashna makes us immortal, and you can say that this is explanation of Mahamrutyunjay mantra. Ultimately, what it teaches us, that make us immortal. Mrutyor mukshiya ma amrutat. So from mrityu take us to moksha, amruta. And the process here is through udana vayu, the tej, fire, and how it goes through various channels, and that decides our next life and our last state of mind. if, and that's why it is said that see why it is important to always think about Brahma or God or whatever Ishtadev we like. Just keep contemplating about it, because if not, then the last moment we'll miss it. If we don't do manas japa, say you are given through Guru Parampara, if you are given Guru Mantra, try chanting that in your mind, because then your mind is kind of attuned. It is that practice is very important. That will ensure that in your last state of mind you will also be chanting that, you will also be imbibed into that, and you will not think about worldly things. We have seen that when somebody is about to die, cannot leave body just like that, and is waiting for somebody to come, some relative, maybe daughter or son, and when they arrive they leave the body. That means their state of mind is all fixated on that. They were always thinking about that. They could not detach themselves. So in next birth, most probably they are going to have that bondage carried forward. So if we always keep thinking about God, whatever form we like, we always keep thinking and chanting about God's name or mantra, it is highly possible that when we leave body, we'll be thinking about that. So our next birth, if it is, will be of better or progressed state. And that's why we do all these things, bhakti and japa and bhajan, and take part in all the utsavas and do all the various religious festivals, I would say, because that also, let's say Mahashivratri, then during Mahashivratri we think about keeping fast, thinking about doing or praying to Shivlinga and doing Abhishek and all that. That means our mind is more thinking about that from our daily routine, and that is very important. If there is Janmashtami, we'll be thinking about Krishna, that hey, we are going to do this and that at night. So we are thinking about Krishna all day. If it is Deepavali, we'll be thinking about hey, we are going to do Mahalakshmi Puja, we are going to light lamps for Bhagwan Sri Ram and his welcome. So we are thinking about God all the time during those days. So we are kind of cut off from all the worldly attachments. And let's say if something bad happens and we had to leave body during that time, our next birth is taken care. So that is very important. And I think that's the essence of whatever we do, whether we study Bhagavad Gita, whether we study Upanishads, whether we study Vedas, whether we don't study anything, just be happy with listening to bhajans, anything is fine, as long as our state of mind is fixated in God, whatever form we like. Even we are fighting with somebody, let's assume that we are fighting with God, so we will not be detached. God is giving us opportunity to fight and work on our karmas. That is quite possible. Why we fight with somebody, why we are attached with somebody, why we don't like somebody, why we like somebody, these are all bondages because of our past karmas which we are not aware. And that's why it is good to assume that God is giving us all these opportunities. We are different beings, it's ultimately God, but he or she is giving us this opportunity. So work on this karma and make sure that last state of mind, even if somebody is not aware, that we have experience, right? If somebody is under heavy medications, it's not awake, could not open eyes, but in those last moments all the faculties of the body are kind of ignited. Even with heavy what you call anesthetics, which you can't believe that somebody would wake up, but at that last moment would wake up and go through this process. So we have to believe all this. We might not have first-hand experience, but many have that. So let's pray to God that we work on our karmas and work towards our betterment and the betterment of the world. We'll end here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.